Good afternoon to all. I'm welcoming you all for the technical session 4. Let me welcome and invite Dr. Ruth Magdalene, Associate Assistant Professor, Christo Jayanti College, Bangalore, to handle this session. She will be the chairperson for this session. Let me hand over the session to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Warm good afternoon to everyone. So can we have the first presenter for the session?
Good afternoon, all of you. I am Muhammad Arif, Assistant Professor of English from Government Degree College, Poonch, J&K, India. My topic is, are you getting my voice, ma'am?
Yes. It's
Okay,
good.
okay, ma'am. My topic is on a subaltern. Subaltern concern in Mulk Raj Anand's novel Untouchable. And firstly, I have to discuss who are the subaltern. The paper argues for the representation of subaltern space of power equations in colonial India through Mulk Raj Anand's novel Untouchable. The concept of subaltern covers not only the untouchable but also all the poor and marginalized groups of the society. These subalterns have very few chances to change their fate in society, which is mired by the upper class and closes the options like consciousness, education, and equal rights to raise their status. The paper also strives to manifest the idea of equality as a site of contestation with a concealed consciousness of contention, not as utopian locus of disconnection with actuality. The term subaltern, used for the first time by Italian Marxist Antonio Gramsci in Latin, subaltern means sub means under and alter means other. So literally it denotes to any person or group of person belonging to inferior rank. They may belong to any class, gender, sex, ethnicity, and religion. Antonio Gramsci emphasized the significance of the word in terms of class, gender, caste, marginalization, race, and culture of the society, whereas Gayatri Spivak used the term for the colonized and the oppressed people, working class, and the women whose voice has been muted. Ranjit Guha also denoted that the term expresses about class, caste, age, and gender. The concept of subaltern studies prominence is derived from Marxism and post-structuralism. The subaltern concept gained its impressive momentum in England at the end of 1970. Mulkraj Anand was the first person in Indian writing who realized in the literary circle the victimization of the subaltern in the Indian society. Untouchable is his debut novel, which published in 1935, revolves around an eventful day of an outcast, Bakha, a scavenger who, being a prototype of millions of untouchable of India, symbolizes their. Are you getting my voice?
Yes.
Okay, ma'am. Okay. Their plight and predicament, hardship and humiliation, merciless tortures and inhuman torments to which they were subjected. He was conscious of the fact that the illiterate masses were being exploited by the upper class in the name of caste and creed. The wretched condition of the oppressed section of the community has been vividly described in Untouchable. Almost all his heroes are powerless to fight against the social order as they are overpowered by the organized evil in the society. Mulkraj Anand's first novel deals with the sad plight of untouchables who have been suppressed by Hindu Vedantic culture. The novel highlights the pathetic condition of untouchable, The scene of this novel is laid in a remote village named Bulandshahr, that is also known Bulandshahr later, in Punjab. This is a small village and located outside of town. Anand compassionately explains the social condition of subalterns through this filthy, unhygienic, and not properly ventilated atmosphere of the colony. And he discussed, or you may say, he picturized the condition in the following words: upper class people or upper caste compelled untouchable for this separation because they do not want to keep in touch with untouchables. They thought the mere presence of untouchable not only defiled their colonies but polluted their environment also. Such type of attitude towards untouchable dragged them to hell of the subalternity. The novel reflects the unsympathetic and callous attitude of the ruthless caste system of Hindus as he brings to the forefront the trial, tribulation, humiliation, and pain faced and felt by the subaltern in the Indian society. There is a great inequality and social anarchy in a land that proclaims that all people living on this land are equal. Bakha, who is the hero of this novel, starts the work just out of the bed without even having a little hot water to warm his throat. Hence, after completing 5 rounds of cleaning the latrines, he returns home with the hope of getting something hot to drink. But there is no tea and even water. Therefore, his sister Sohoni takes a pitch and goes in search of water. They had no well of their own because it cost lot money to dig a well in such a hilly town as Bulandshahr. The well episode in the novel is a vital evidence for understanding the social condition of the Spartan community. In this episode, Anand criticizes Hindu caste system and the evil motive of high caste. Upper caste think they are superior to all other castes and only they have privilege to the basic necessities of life. In the novel, the people of low caste wait at the platform of the well for getting the water with the help of some upper caste Hindus who could be generous for pouring some water on their dry pitches. The outcasts were not supposed to use the natural resources directly because it would be polluted by their mere touching. The unacceptable forces keeps untouchable to remain thirsty, dirty, and filthy. In the well, the favor done there by an upper caste Hindu Brahmin, Pandit Kalinath, who pours the water on an empty pitchy of Sohani, sister of Bakha, not for the sake of generosity, but because he was attracted towards Sohani's beauty. He calls her in the temple for cleaning earth are like a family, whereas in practice. The novel basically describes the pathetic condition of the people who have been uh, deprived from their basic rights. Therefore, Mulkraj Anand presented the humanistic attitude in portraying those conditions with Bakha and his subaltern class faced from society. Anand's purpose was not only to expose the people, but presented their plight which they face in their day-to-day lives. After getting chapatis, Bakha comes home and his sister and his father Lakha scolding him because he gets few chapatis. Lakha dreams of the past when he used to bring a lot of food from the marriages. He is also reminded of the past incident how the Hakim ji did not allow him to enter his house when he went for getting medicine for his child. It happened only because Lakha belonged to the untouchable caste, and this caste had no permission to enter any high caste house, whether he is in pain or misery. It clearly explains Anand's humanistic approach in the novel when Lakha recited the past experience. And I am quoting here: I tried to fall at the feet of every passerby and prayed them to tell the Sarkar, Your Honor, that my child was suffering. But Sarkar, this is the time of kindness. Be compassionate at this time. Another time you may take even my life. Only save my child. Here, Anand presents the condition of untouchability, which is continuously running through generation to generation. Being a sweeper, Lakha could not enter inside the shop of medical practitioner and is compelled to see the bottles of medicine from outside. The novel elaborates the condition of a sweeper's boy, Pakha, who had suffered not by his mistakes but due to his birth in the sweeper caste. Anand condemns the Vedic system in which the upper caste always exploits and humiliates the lower caste. Upper caste tortures Bakha and treats him worse than animal in every episode of the novel. Bakha seems to struggle in society for sheer existence. He listens abuses from society every day. Sometimes abuses help him to regain his strength and self-respect for completing his work more efficiently. But at the same time, it gives emotional imbalance to him and provokes the feeling of protest. He performs his duty honestly and gets only heaps of abuses as the reward. Anand shows the hypocrisy, pretense, and shame of the Hindu society when two persons are begging food at the doorstep of a house. One is a sadhu or a holy man who is treated with full devotion because his blessings will benefit them. And on the other hand, an untouchable Anand shows the his blessing will benefit and untouchable Bakha is begging for food, but he is treated with contempt and abuses as the lady of the house says in anger. I am quoting lines from a novel. You eater of your masters, you have defiled my house. Go, get up. Why did not you shout if you wanted food? You have defiled my religion. Now I will have to sprinkle holy water all over the house. He soon out again to sweep the market road and temple courtyard. On the way, he buys 4 annas worth of cheap sweet meat after much speculation. Bakha being untouchable to avoid by touch, the confectioner throws the packet of jalebis like a cricket ball for Bakha to catch. He catches it. He then places 4 nickel coins on a chalkboard near which the confectioner assistant has been standing ready with some water to sprinkle and remove the pollution, and then he walks away. Bakha becomes greatly happy with the sweet mate in his hand. He opens the packet with alacrity and puts a piece quickly into his mouth. The taste of the warm and sweet syrup gives him satisfaction and delight. He attacks the packet again and again. This makes him forced to call out,
Sir,
"Posh, posh." Ah,
so-
yes, yes,
sorry
ma'am.
to interrupt. I think wind up with yes.
Okay, okay, ma'am. I am going to conclude it at the end. These incidents make his blood boil. He feels a wild desire to retaliate, and yet there is a futility written on his face. He knows that he will not be able to overstep the walls which the convention of his superiors have built up to protect their weakness against him. The incident of touching, along with the attempt of the temple priest to induce his sister Sohoni to surrender her chastity, poisonous all that happens subsequently, even such pleasant episodes as a hockey match, a country walk, and a wedding. Therefore, in the novel, when Bakha listened to Gandhiji, he was impressed. He had at the end he had 3 solutions, and the second solution is the listening of Gandhiji. what Gandhiji was saying about untouchables. Gandhiji also published a magazine on it, that was Harijan. Therefore, in the novel, when Bakha listened to Gandhiji, he was impressed by Gandhiji's lecture on the deliverance from untouchability. He feels blessed after listening to Gandhiji, the soothing impression of the mind of a person whose journey began in the morning, stumbling through the stone of caste hierarchy. Bakha relaxed in the evening when he particularly listened to Gandhiji, held up the introduction of flush system machine by the poet, which would be able to clear the dung without touching it, is another solution to Baka. This machine would be a permanent solution of untouchability, because earlier the problem was based on the work which Baka and his class was doing for centuries. Through this episode, Anand imagines a secular, cooperative, and egalitarian society which can be helpful to uplift the social condition and position of the subaltern class. It is worth quoting here the historic statement made by E.M. Foster. So, due to scarcity of time, I am not quoting that statement. Conclusively, there is no doubt that in the novel Untouchable, Mulk Anand has presented a true and realistic picture of traditional Brahminical Indian society, where the condition of the subaltern was quite miserable and wretched. So, through Pakha's character, Anand wants to develop a kind of awareness in the conscious of the outcast and exploited people. The novel evokes in the mind of the objective reader the horrifying social malady that existed in the colonial days and in the subsequent decades, and creates a tale of socially manipulated woe to the downtrodden in the Indian society. The novelist has presented the picture of pre-independence India, or colonial India, with rare power of realism, and he has become very successful in presenting the graphic and vivid portrayal of subalterns in Indian society. Man, that's all from my side.
Yes, sir. Good presentation, sir.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Yes. So we have heard about Mulkraj Anand from every literature student would have come across his work, and Untouchable is the work every literature student across India would have read.
Yeah, yeah, ma'am.
So a good way of analyzing it. Have you bought in any professor? Have you
Sorry,
bought in
ma'am.
any theory, professor, in your
Uh,
paper? Have you bought in any subaltern theory in your paper?
yeah,
Professor, you're
if
with me?
anybody has any query, I'm ready for that.
No. Have you bought in any theories?
No, 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 ma'am. I have no query.
Uh, okay, so it's a conceptual study that you have done
Yes, yes,
with
yes,
the
ma'am. Okay,
incidents.
okay, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes.
Which is the main character? In the main character,
Man character, ma'am,
which
is
incident?
yes, main character is Bakha, basically, who is the hero,
Yes,
seems to be the hero of this novel. And
yes,
in his life, we have a number of incidents in this novel. The most
yes.
important one
So,
is
which
the,
incident? Your hmm,
yes, ma'am. Yes.
yes, which incident shook you most when you read the novel when it comes to untouchability?
Basically, we have 3 and 4 important incidents in this novel. The first one is the bullying of a Subedar when he performed his duty, and they were using harsh language only because he belongs to lower class. And second, we have the molesting of his sister Sohoni, who is molested by the priest of the temple, and though she was belonged to lower class, but he was attracted by his by her beauty, and that was another incident of hypocrisy in this way,
Yes.
we can say.
Okay.
And the third one is the most important one, is the well incident, where the untouchables or the subalterns were not allowed to enter in a specific area from where they can get water. So these are some incidents which are, yes, ma'am.
Yes, Professor. Good study of the novel, and the floor is
Thank you,
open
ma'am.
for the other participants to to pose questions to the
Thank you,
professor in
ma'am.
regard to subaltern. Any questions from the participants? I think if there are no queries, we'll move on to the next presenter.
Thank you, ma'am.
So
Thank you, ma'am.
we have, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank
It
you,
was a
ma'am.
good
Thank you, ma'am.
presentation. The second participant is Christina from St. John's College. She's a research scholar.
Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm here.
Good afternoon. So general instruction when you're going to present, it'll be more lively if you turn on your video. And one more thing is we have, because of time constraint, it's just 10 to 12 minutes for each presentation.
Yes, ma'am.
You're good
Sure,
to
ma'am.
go, Tina.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Am I audible and is my video clear to all?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon to one and all present here. I am Christina David, a PhD research scholar from St. John's College. The title of my paper is Translation as Reconstitution of Language, Analysis of G.U. Pope's translation of Tirukkural. I shall begin by introducing how important translation was then and even now in recent time. We all know how language is important to convey ideas from one person to another, and likewise we to talk to one another outside our border, we require translation. It is not just transferring of one person's idea from one language to another language, but it's transferring the culture, the context, and historical background along with it, um, from one language to another language. There is a famous quote by George Steiner: without translation, we would be living in provinces bordering on silence. Meaning to say that without translation, we would be confined to just one language. We would have been remained silent to the entire world. Native texts will not prevail in that case. And according to Binay Kumar Das, he is a translator. He says a translator is a reader, interpreter, and a creator all in one. As we all know, source writer creates the text, creates the character and the plot, everything. But the translator should acquire three skills, according to Binay Kumar Das, which are they should be a reader, interpreter, and a creator all in one. I shall give you an example. There is a native translator who is called Bama, who is a native Tamil writer. She wrote Karuk. She is a creator of the text. But Lakshmi Holmstrom, who is a translator, she becomes a reader. She reads the source text multiple times. She interprets it and translate and give the target text. The translator has to know the language and understand the background, culture, context, and linguistic inclination towards the words while undergoing the process. The necessity of understanding the other language text has become more and more demand these days. Moving on to talk about the discipline per se, even though translation as a process has been prevalent for so many centuries ago, the translation studies as a discipline had been found recently. James S. Home, who is an American Dutch poet, who is a translator, in his foundational paper, which is called Translation Studies, Translation Studies, the Nature of Translation, which is published in the year 1972. Since then, the discipline has begun its shape. The text I have chosen is Tirukkural, as it is mentioned in the title. I will give a short introduction on it. It is a Tamil classical epic which is supposedly written by Thiruvalluvar. It is composed of 1330 couplets, which is broadly classified into three parts: virtue, riches, and love. There are so many information on Tirukkural. If we want to search upon it, let's move on to talk about my translator. Moving on to introduce Dr. G.U. Pope, a translator who was an Anglican Christian missionary and a Tamil scholar who spent around 40 years in Tamil Nadu and translated many Tamil texts into English. He is a non-native translator. His popular translation includes Tirukural and Tiruvasagam, which are two great classical Tamil epics. He is one of the most important translator because he is the first one to translate the whole Tirukural from Tamil to English, thus leading this text to reach the millions of people around the world. Even 4 months ago, Thomas Hitoshi Purukshima, who is a translator, who is a Japanese-born Seattle settled translator, who took upon this process and learned Tamil in order to translate this text. That's how much this text has reached. In G.U. Pope's preface, he says the purpose of this translation is to help the Western scholar and comprehend, to make Western scholar to understand how and give the different version of or else, to put it in simpler term, to comprehend in an easier way, to reach the audience in a better term. He also says that this text is hard labor and much time. He almost took 28 years to translate this text. This is the reason why I choose Tirukural as my primary text. In my paper, I have focused on 43rd chapter, which is titled Possession of Knowledge, which is called Arivudamai in Tamil. There are 133 chapters in total. Every chapter is composed of 10 couplets. I would like to analyze, I have analyzed 10 couplets in my paper, but for now, as for the time restriction, I would like to focus on few couplets, for example. For the general observation, in all 10 couplets, the translator uses rhyme scheme. His use of language shows how he is concerned not only about the meaning transfer, but also with the language itself by inculcating rhyme scheme throughout every couplets in this chapter. Specific analysis would be, I shall quote the couplet 423rd couplet. Though things diverse from diverse ages, lips we learn this wisdom part in each the true thing to discern. The meaning of the couplet is wisdom helps us in understanding the truth behind everything said by everyone is the simple meaning which is put forth by the source writer. Here the translator not only provides the same meaning to the target audience, but he moves beyond that. In this couplet, he uses the term sage, which is not precisely mentioned in the source text, but rather it was general. The translator uses it because the particular term conveys better to the target audience. This happens with the 425th couplet, inculcation of the term lotus, which is an additional information used by the translator in order to reach the target audience. Moving on to give another example would be, I quote a 426th couplet, as dwells the world, so with the world to dwell in harmony. This is to wisely live and well. In this couplet, we could see the repetition of the word world, which is similar to the source text. Here, one could understand how language reconstitute or reconstruct itself into translation to reach the target audience by conveying even the poetic similarities. This shows how the translator not only adds extra information to the audience, but also implies the exact same repetition which is present in the source text. And finally, I would like to give a third final example, which is 429th couplet, which says, the wise with watchful soul who coming ills foresee, from coming evils dreaded shock are free. Here, the translator implied alliteration in words such as wise, with, watchful, and who, which is a poetic device which is not used in Tamil text, but in source text, the author has inculcated Yedugai, which is a poetic device in Tamil grammar. The second letter are the same in both first and second line of the couplet, which is Adira and Edira in Tamil. In target text, the author used alliteration. By summarizing these three, the translator has added something it's not present in the source text, The translator used repetition, which is used in the source text. Finally, the translator also used the poetic device to maintain the same essence on the audience, which shows that the purpose of the translation, which is mentioned in the preface, has been fulfilled. By concluding this presentation, the translation is just as important as language. Here in this Pope's translation, one could understand how well the language has reconstituted itself by delivering the exact same meaning, essence to the appropriate meaning to the target audience. We can understand Pope's language efficiency and poetic highness takes the Tamil epic poetry to the next level, which shows how well the interpretation facilitates communication through conveying the meaning. Poetic styles, repetition, crossing over the hurdles while translating translating, the translator has contributed more to the academics to ponder upon. There are few gaps in this paper I would like to address. Linguistic level analysis hasn't been focused, which can be taken on the further research. And method I have used is critical discourse analysis has been used in this paper, and reader response theory by Stanley Fish is a theory used in this paper in order to understand the effect on the audience. Thank you, ma'am.
Good presentation, Tina. It shows the amount of work that you've put in for the paper.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good. So when it comes to Tirukkural, the witty statements that we always come upon, be it as morale, we have 42 languages across the world translating the great epic work.
Yes, ma'am.
So I think you have taken one person, only
Yes,
one
ma'am.
translation into
Only
account.
one translation, G.U. Pope's, because it's the first one. That's why I have chosen G.U. Pope's translation. But I also
So it was a
read
project
other
done
translations.
by him alone, or was it? It's just out of curiosity. Was the project done by him
Yes,
alone,
ma'am.
or was it
Yes,
part?
ma'am. No, it's not a combined work. It's a project done by G.U. Pope alone.
Done by- Okay. So I have just two queries,
Yes,
not
ma'am.
question in
Yes, ma'am.
fact.
Yes, ma'am.
So when it comes to idioms and expression in translation theory, we always have this question in hand that we have a negative tone saying be a native person when you translate it, it'll be more effective. So have the writer, the translator, Paul has put in justice when it comes to idioms and expression, which is found in Tirukkural.
Actually, I have interviewed some other translator while undergoing this process. According to the translators, there is no such thing as final translation, or the best equivalence cannot be found during the process of translation. Whatever the translator thinks or the best form of reading the Kural for the first time, the effect comes upon the translator while reading the work. That can be considered as the best equivalent way of finalizing the process, I guess. Now.
Yes. Okay. So when it comes to the translation,
Yes,
do you find any other translator of
yes, ma'am.
Tirukkural
Yes, ma'am. I
went
have.
to the translation study?
Yes, ma'am. I have read around 4 translation of Tirukkural. One I have mentioned in my introduction, which is Thomas Hitoshi's. The book has been published only before 4 months. His translation was considered as more relevant to the these days language, but the Pope's translation was bit of a complex one. The poetic highness can be seen in Pope's translation, but in the other hand, in Thomas Hitoshi's translation, we could relate with the language while reading Thomas's translation. There are few of the similarities and differences we could see while reading versions of translation, different versions.
Yes. Good, Tina. You gave us a lot of information regard to translation and the other versions of Thirukkural being translated. Good job.
Thank
All the best for your research work.
Thank you, ma'am.
So, can we have the next participant?
Yes, ma'am. I'm here, ma'am.
Yes,
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Ms. Good
Yes, I'm
afternoon,
Gayatri.
Gayatri, ma'am. So, yes, ma'am. So, ma'am is from Mother Teresa Women's University. So, the floor is open to you, ma'am. You can start.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. I am S.M. Gayatri, a part-time PhD research scholar, Mother Teresa Women's University, Kodaikanal, and also working as a guest lecturer in English, MB Muthiah Government Arts College for Women, Dindikal, Tamil Nadu. I'm here to present a paper entitled Women as Subalterns in Imitias Darkas Fight. Before that, what is subaltern? Subaltern means of inferior rank. This term was first used by Italian Marxist philosopher Antonio Gramsci to refer specifically to workers. Thus, the theory is principally designed to examine the voice of the subaltern subject. Later, feminist concerns women's cause, their subjugation to men, their inferior status, and their exploitation, that is physical, social, economical, and religious. In Indian English poetry, from Thorudur to Kamala Das, women writers in English exhibit a poignant, ironic voice against the institutional subjugation of women in Indian society. Imitias Thakkar is one such diasporic writer, depicts the plight of women and to raise her voice against the subaltern status of women, especially the Muslim women across the globe. Imitias Thakkar is a Pakistan-born British poet, artist, and documentary filmmaker. She regards herself as a Scottish Calvinist Muslim. The main theme of her poetry include home, freedom, and cultural displacement and gender politics. She takes poetry as a medium, voice against the subaltern status of women, and also points out the need for women to find their own space in society. Her first poetry collection, entitled Parda and Other Poems, insists the marginal status of women. Being a Muslim woman, she could point out the sufferings of women and the injustice done to them in the name of religion. Her first two poems, Parda 1 and 2, shows how the custom of Parda demolishes the freedom of women. Wearing parda is a religious practice in Muslim culture to cover a skin of women from the evil sight of men. Thakkar strongly objects this system as she feels it to be a subjugation of the gender. Thakkar also believes this system suppresses women from the opportunity of learning and growth, and it is considered as a tool for safety, and says that this parda is nothing more than a coffin in which a dead body is kept. In her poetry, she says, Parda is a kind of safety. The body finds a place to hide. The cloth fans out against the skin, much like the earth that falls on coffin after they put the dead man in. Chowdhury, in his Representing Third World Women, a study of select writings of Imitias Thakkar, points out that Thakkar poems projects Parda as a symbol of moral, religious, and social taboo. More than the veiling of the body, it is veiling of the mind that Thakkar objects to. Here, Thakkar exposes how patriarchy uses Parda to limit a woman's life expectations and curtails her freedom. And she criticized that women are excluded from all religious ceremonies. According to her, it is inhuman treatment, and she believes that the basic principles of Islam are made to favor of men and suppress women. Her another poem, Honor Killing, this poem narrates a woman's struggle for freedom and reclamation of her own identity. Throughout the poem, the poet highlights both religious and cultural related issues associated with women. The term honor killing refers to the murder of a person, usually a girl or woman, who is believed to have brought some shame upon the family. This practice should be condemned, and Thakkar suggests that women's condition can only change when she is able to break these shackles, culture, religion, and society. Undoubtedly, only through self-realization that a woman can succeed in establishing her individuality and freedom from the constructive social and religious norms. With enlightenment and education, women, we will grow. Free thinking will lead them to position of free thought and action. And Darkar writing shows the voice of women should not be muffled. She articulates women's helplessness, problems, and their victimization through her poetry. And at last, she does not speak for her community, but the strong supporter of women individuals. Ma'am, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for the wonderful presentation on a Saturday afternoon. You inspired us to read in regard to women writing about Darka's poem.
Yes, ma'am.
So you've taken how many poems for the paper, ma'am?
Ma'am, for research, I have taken 3 different poets, one from Muslim community, and another from Hindu, and one from Christianity, ma'am.
So the current paper
So
that you're writing,
I have selected some select poems of Darkar, ma'am.
Darkar. Okay. So when it comes to the first poem you were talking about, the Parda issue, I think you'd have heard in Karnataka and especially in Bangalore. So I'm residing in Bangalore, and we had to close college one day because of the issue that
Yes,
was
ma'am.
pronounced. I think you'd have come across that. So what is your take from the poem and in regard to the social issues that we have in the present generation too?
Ma'am, according to me, I am not against the religious system. I simply says that women, we should know the self-reinvention and self-realization, and our education system should avoid these religious hurdles. And Darkar, being a Muslim community, she also she is not against the religious system, ma'am. She says that women are suppressed. They are not to be suppressed in the name of religion. That's all. If they welcomes to wear parda, it's okay. That is their opinion. So if women wishes, they wear. If they won't, we won't suppress them. We won't impose them to wear. That is my opinion, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So one
Ma'am.
more interesting. Yes, yes.
Yes,
Professor?
ma'am, I have a question. Basically, you talked about a lot about subaltern and particularly women. In Kamala Das poetry, we have male-dominated society system. And when she married to K. Madhav Das, she was half to his age, and she exploited those things in her writing. How a woman, or how a woman is, you may say, exploited to one reason or the other reason. And as far as Parda system is concerned, being a Muslim, it is not mandatory for every woman or for women to use Parda at any stage or at every time. It is a choice. If you can adapt it, it is up to you. And if you want to leave it, you have no restriction as far as religion is concerned. Am I right, ma'am? As you have studied a lot
Yes,
on it.
yes,
Yes.
yes, sir.
Okay. Okay.
Thank
My question is on ma'am K. Madhav Das, who actually become the cause of her tragedy, and that's why she started to write in her life, Kamala Das. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, Professor. Thank you for adding the information. And ma'am, one more. It's not a question. I just
Yes, ma'am.
want to
Yes,
ask
ma'am.
out of interest that which poem appealed to you a lot as a women scholar, research scholar, taking up a person writing about the subaltern studies, and which poem appealed to you more?
In MPS Darkar's poetry, the honor killing has inspired me because though the woman has to face many problems, she wants to come out of it. In this poem, she wants to get out of this problem. She wants to get out from the family life. So some lines are very much very impressive.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Your presentation showed the amount of interest that you have in the paper and in your research. All the best, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.